Well, you gotta love New York City, and hey, at least he's trying to be clean. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Rudowski here of WeAreChange.org. And man, oh man, is there some absolutely crazy news to get into, as there is some massive civil unrest building up on the world stage. This, as it looks like many powerful politicians and bureaucrats are literally going for broke with some very desperate moves. This, as even it looks like the corporate media establishment is trying to shift blame on one of the largest human experiments that has been played on the world. Lots to talk about. We're going to get into that, plus a lot more, all on this independent media broadcast. If you like the shirt that I'm wearing, you can get it on thebestpoliticalshirts.com, highlighting, of course, the corporate banking global elite. And the intro video that we played in the beginning of this broadcast probably is staged, as, of course, there's numerous videos now featuring some of the same characters here, performing some very outlandish skits all over New York City, as they perfectly highlight how New York City is in utter chaos and disarray, through, of course, their artistic performances. This man bathing also was in a previous viral video that we played on this broadcast, where he, how do you say this on a family-friendly show? Hold on. Atlas, other side. Let's go. Atlas, stop challenging me. That's not your position. Over there, lay down. Thank you very much. You get treats later. He pooped in a mop bucket that also was the absolute epitome of genuine artistic performance. Whoever these guys are, I don't know, so I can't link their YouTube channel down in the description below. If you know who they are, let me know down in the comment section so we could credit them properly, as of course their performances are top-notch. Now, as some aspects of our society seem to be crumbling, there also seems to be an unraveling of a lot of the bigger agenda played against the general public. This, as recently there has been some major reversals in the official narrative and agenda that are worth talking about, that we're going to be getting into in a little bit. But also, a lot of people usually attacked for standing up against the narratives and agenda usually do get a lot of support after being desperately attacked, as of course could be perfectly represented by the raid on Mar-a-Lago, and also the recent attacks on, of course, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, that for a second night in a row was just swatted. Now, if you don't know what swatting is, it's when someone calls in a fake police call pretending to be somebody else, causing a SWAT team to show up at your door, which has been becoming more and more popular, since of course this is something myself and Tim Pool have had to deal with on many times. Very interestingly, one of the first times we had to deal with this was right after interviewing Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who now 2 nights in a row dealt with police showing up at her door, being ready to, of course, breach the doors with their SWAT team and intervene on what they didn't know was a fake call to them. Now, the fact that this has been happening to a lot of individuals, especially politically involved individuals, and there's nothing yet done to stop it, that this is already being done to a congresswoman twice, and there has been nothing done to stop it, highlights either one of two possible scenarios in my own personal opinion. One, the system is utterly incompetent, shouldn't be trusted with anything, especially with their track, trace, and database, and say surveillance systems. Or two, they're somehow complicit in this and allowing it to happen, or doing it themselves. That's just my own personal assertion, having dealt with these kind of similar dangerous situations where, of course, previously, people have lost their lives because of being swatted. But also importantly, to me, this also highlights some desperate moves being made here against political opposition. This, as it does look like we are going through a significant societal and cultural political shift in our everyday life, as of course there have been major decisions, major moves made that are absolutely worth talking about. Just moments ago, it was announced that the Department of Homeland Security's Disinformation Board has been officially canceled, most likely since, of course, there was a court case that already found out how the White House was censoring individuals for their speech criticizing the government. Dr. Fauci just announced right before the Republicans take Congress that he's going to be leaving office, leaving some people saying that he's left a little piece of himself in the hearts of millions, and that genuinely there's going to be a lot of heartache because of his time in office. Get it? Heartache? Also, it looks like YouTube is going back on a lot of their very heavy stances, stopping scientific debate and conversations, and has recently removed rules barring the conversations surrounding shots, masks, and is now going to allow scientific debate to actually happen on their platform, when previously they used outdated metrics, outdated studies, and hearsay from bureaucrats as the way to brutally stifle real conversations. And I think one of the biggest headlines in relation to this news is this article from a mainline corporate outlet blaming the former president of the United States on the shot that him and his predecessor were manipulating people to take. This is also joined by a similar article from the Washington Post that is detailing specifically how the Trump administration pressured and pushed the FDA to authorize unproven treatments for the sickness going around on an accelerated timeline. Now, what is Politico and the Washington Post doing here? Well, according to some, laying down the groundwork to blame the larger negative consequences of the shot on Donald Trump. Now, this is not new information. This is not something that we didn't know about before, as of course Donald Trump even bragged about how he pushed the FDA like no president ever in order to push this shot onto everyone else, rushing essentially what many people call the medical experiment on people. And Trump still to this day is openly bragging about how he was one of the main people, one of the main players that pushed this shot on everyone, and how if it wasn't for him, this shot wouldn't be available. It's important to also remind everyone that Trump offered Bill Gates a job and worked with him one-on-one on rushing this very carefully important medical process, and still to this day is patting himself on the back as if it was a major accomplishment of his and no one else's, to the point where even fellow supporters of him and popular online broadcasters are coming out and saying, hey, I'm going to not support you because of this particular stance, and I will be supporting the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, if Trump doesn't stop bragging about the shot. Now, it's very interestingly not just Politico and the Washington Post rehashing this old news as if it was new, making a big turnaround in the official narrative and agenda here. It's also CNN darling their alleged medical expert that was on the forefront of cheerleading this shot, of punishing people, of extorting them, manipulating them, hurting them for not doing what she wanted them to do, Leana Wen, that also just recently came out and wrote in an opinion piece on the Washington Post admitting that she was absolutely wrong trying to advocate people to mask, which she now admits harmed her own son's development. Yes, CNN medical analyst Dr. Leana Wen is coming out saying that she was wrong about the masks, saying that it hurt her own son when she represented the strongest advocate for masks, especially in schools, and essentially was one of the main people responsible for it as the major cheerleader for it. And it's not just her child that was punished by her policies, but millions of others all across the country, as of course the scientific data, specifically with masks and children, was there. It was plain view. It was there for everyone so they could see it. It was clear as day. And now she's finally waking up to it. This after we hear politician after politician come out and say that they got sick multiple times, re-sick, reinfected, while of course doing everything that the Lord and Saviors at Big Pharma told them to do. This of course made a lot of people think, and the data coming out right now highlights some very peculiar, and one of the most recent eye-opening admissions was of course from the German health minister that literally came out and said that if you took the shot you developed symptoms quicker, and therefore the people who didn't take the shot developed symptoms slower, and somehow that this was a good thing. Yes, this was the train of thinking from Lauterbach, a person who looks like he's trying to reinsure himself, even though what he is saying is directly contradicting with everything that he previously stood for. And when you look at the scientific data, this is exactly what it highlights. It highlights a lot of disparity between the official story and what politicians have been saying up until this point, and what we were allowed to say on this particular platform, because we've been screaming it for years now, all exclusively on LukeUncensored.com, our own platform where we create videos almost every single day. This is only available to members. 50 cents a day grants you access to our own platform where we get to say and do what we want. Now, it looks like YouTube is finally allowing rational, real conversations surrounding data. As of course, previously, it censored doctors. It censored medical studies. It censored important conversations that were needed to be had, conversations that we're now realizing have been true all along. And sadly, conversations that we could have only had on our own particular platform. But still, there is a plethora of many hot button issues that we can't talk about on this particular platform. We usually talk about them and other social, political, economic ideas on LukeUncensored.com. We're going to be doing another video right after this one, only available for members. We have a plethora of amazing offers for you. 3 masterclasses, a forum. We are going to be forcing ourselves to finish the AMA that we have been doing, talking to you guys one-on-one. We have a members store. We have events coming up that are only going to be available for members, exclusive meetups, ways to meet like-minded individuals, and there's a lot of you guys here as we're going to be working on partnerships and future projects all together on LukeUncensored.com. Again, one of the ways forward for us as independent media is, of course, through LukeUncensored.com. You haven't signed up yet. What are you waiting for? And your participation helps Atlas get more treats. See you there right after this video. Now, just recently, there was a very telling video released by former Rothschild banker and now current president of France, Emmanuel Macron, that I think definitely is worth paying attention to, as it also highlights a larger shift in society that, of course, he is warning everyone about. What is he foreshadowing here? Well, this is what he had to say.
What we are living through is a time of great upheaval. Firstly, because we are witnessing, and not just since this summer, but over the past few years, the end of what we might have seen as abundance. And for those who enjoyed it, it is also the end of a carefree time. Our freedom, the liberty to which we have grown accustomed to in our lives, has a price, and sometimes when we have to defend it, we have to make certain sacrifices as we fight to defend it.
Now, those are very important words, because what kind of upheaval is Macron talking about that, of course, is coming our way? Well, probably the same upheaval that we have already seen in Sri Lanka, in Holland, in Latin America, in Africa, in South Africa, just recently. In Pakistan, just recently, where, of course, there's massive civil unrest happening right now because of daily blackouts and restrictions of energy. Protests happening right now also in Bangladesh to protest the rising fuel and food prices. Protests happening right now in New Zealand against the draconian government there that has lied through their teeth and abused the citizens there, taken away their rights, while, of course, creating a situation that is correlated with the citizens there meeting their own demise. Why is there lack of abundance? Well, we're also going through a great reset, which I think is important to highlight here, as, of course, Emmanuel Macron is a prominent member of the World Economic Forum that has been leading the charge in, quote, building back better and setting up policies in the vision of the UN 2030 agenda that clearly do limit food, limit energy, limit people's personal freedoms and liberties, while, of course, prioritizing corporate profits and top-down centralization of authority. We have seen this every step of the way with people that are just following orders, just, quote, doing their jobs, and we have seen that exacerbated, not just here in the United States, but everywhere else. And with the energy crisis coming our way, with the food crisis coming our way, with the economic crisis coming our way, what Emmanuel Macron is warning about is true, but another layer to it to understand is the fact that a lot of this has been absolutely engineered top-down by central controllers who are using this situation for their own personal benefit and as a way to promote their crazy, bastardized ideas of population control. Here in the United States, I think it's fair to argue that the situation economically, socially is being made that much worse by the government just printing money out of thin air and spending it as they recently did with their latest debt cancellation plans, which essentially will be allowing the largest transfer of wealth to the tune of $500 billion to, of course, rich universities that have billion-dollar endowments. Harvard has a $42 billion endowment. Yale, $31 billion endowment, all on the backs of young Americans, of young children that they bamboozled, that they scammed, that they lied to with what essentially are their corporations masquerading as institutions of learning. This, as of course, we're also learning that major universities are expected to raise their tuition by $10,000 to match the student loan forgiveness that the U.S. government is planning on giving them. And at the end of the day, we have to understand here, students being screwed over by a greedy corporate system that is giving them degrees, that is giving them pieces of paper that don't have enough value to pay itself off, is the larger scam here that needs to be addressed. And by the U.S. government subsidizing this scam, they essentially are doubling down on it, going to create further victims of it. The people who worked hard, the people who paid off their debt, every single payment, they're one of the individuals being screwed here, as well as everyone else who's going to be paying for, of course, these top-down universities, which are essentially brainwashing factories that not only destroy people's financial future and security, but also in many instances radicalize them to the point of having an absolute disharmonious life. Again, I went to school. I literally worked a full-time job as I went to school full-time because I refused to be indebted. And at the end of it, looking back, I wish I never went. But it was societal pressure, pressure from parents that, of course, forced me into this. I never wanted to go. I never needed to go. And there's a lot of things that we could be doing that could be prioritizing, helping people, not be scammed, not be lied to, not be screwed over, incentivize careers that actually are needed in a particular field that could actually help people in this world. But we don't do any of that. We're literally just giving off $500 billion to universities and banks, greedy mother truckers that don't give a damn about you. That's my opinion. That's my perspective. If you thought I was wrong in any way, shape, or form, let me know why in the comment section below. This is the topic that everyone's discussing right now. This is the hot button issue that, of course, people are going back and forth on. This is where I stand. And if you agree, share this video with your friends and family members. It's more imperative than ever. Someone walking down the street, open your window and be like, hey, you! Check out youtube.com/wearechange. I think it might be good for you. So yeah, go check it out. And remember, start high and low. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys doing this. One more video coming your way right after this one on lukeuncensored.com. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, and this is why. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.